The Codpast.
Hello and welcome to the Codpast. I'm your host Sean Douglas, and this is the place where you'll hear right brain stories from interesting individuals. Today's guest is a graduate from the world famous Central St Martin's College of Art, has given the provincial art of embroidery a much needed injection of rock and roll, and has a disturbing obsession with skulls. Today's guest is artist and designer Tina Crawford. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Nice to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So we talked about embroidery at the start, and I didn't want to push the word embroidery too much because I thought people might be thinking they're in for a show about doilies and patchwork quilts. I mean, your stuff's a little bit more edgy than that, isn't it?
Slightly. Embroidery is a process, but I don't think of it as embroidery. I use a sewing machine, but whatever I'm embroidering onto, I'm moving that rather than moving the needle, which if you call it the pen. So it's backwards. I just like to call it it's backwards drawing. So
the drawing implement moves rather than the
surface moves. So if you kept a pen still and then you moved the paper, it's like that.
So very dyslexic way of
slightly, yeah.
But I mean, your work's been all over the place. I mean, in some really prestigious places, and I think that's really cool because it kind of legitimizes your choice of artist tool. Because it could have been a case where the story behind the method overshadowed the actual artwork. Yeah,
actually, a lot of places when they commission me, I didn't realise it, but some of them still think it's actually just a line drawing. And then they realise it's embroidered and go, oh, I like it even more now. So it's quite nice that it's just liked for what it is. But the process behind it is a nice little story. It's a nice little how I do it. Sometimes it does. When I watch it back, if I video it, it's a little bit like magic. I quite like, watching it back. It really.
Yeah, and that was the thing. I mean, I watched some machine embroidery on YouTube, and it was almost very serene, and felt like it should have a classical music track on it. There was all these fabric stretched on hoops and guidelines and slowly kind of sewing along the guidelines.
I don't really get that.
Then I watched yours, and it was like, should have had a Rage Against the Machine soundtrack. Because it was like this blur of just noise and erratic movement and chaos, basically.
Yeah, that's my brain. Yeah, my work is kind of, that's what's going on inside my head, and then it just kind of comes out.
Because you look at it and you think, this is just a mess. And then you lift the bit of paper up, and you're like, okay, I get it now. Yeah, which is good because it's normal to me, and then you realise actually to some people they weren't expecting that, or they didn't expect it to, whatever. But it's quite nice that it's translated in a nice way, I guess. So, I mean, one thing that I've noticed a lot doing this show is that many people that have been successful as dyslexics, the point where they became successful was when they kind of decided to kind of just embrace their dyslexic way of doing things and actually doing it their own way, because it's quite easy to get to a point where you're trying to force yourself into this neurotypical world and doing things in the neurotypical way. But when people have become successful, it's been when they're like, well, I'm just going to do this.
This is me. This is me, and that's it. And I'd say that's very, very, very typical of how I've been. I mean, I got diagnosed quite late, so I really was I wasn't in denial. I just appreciated the fact that I just thought I was, throughout school, I just thought I was thick. I didn't read, and I didn't really have an issue with it. It didn't bother me. But I was diagnosed sort of midway through my degree because I kind of wanted to leave in the second year when I found out we had to do a dissertation, and I thought, there's a big written piece of work. This is the point where I leave. And then got assessed and got told that. But I didn't necessarily believe it. But it did give me a bit of a push to think, okay, there's a reason for it. Now just get on with it, So I possibly might have left otherwise. I might have just thought, give up. Well, there's no point in even trying. But it gave me, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, look, there's a reason, but just get on with it. And actually, in the end, I did really well on the dissertation. But again, I did it the way that my mind was working. The way I wrote it was the way I was speaking it. I didn't try and write any different way.
For a lot of people, it's quite difficult to actually follow the pathway that your mind is telling you that you should go, because you're in a business or whatever.
Yeah.
And
to actually trust your instincts
Yeah.
is really difficult, because there's this well-trodden neurotypical path.
Yeah.
And then you saying, well, I know I can do this thing in this way, but you don't have any workings to show.
Yeah.
And so it takes this leap of faith. And I think for a lot of people that have gone down the route to do things their own way, the bravery to go and do it their own way comes from kind of tragedy. So it's, losing a job or not failing an exam.
Yeah.
And for you, it was kind of becoming disabled.
Yeah, for me, it was illness.
I mean, tell us what happened, because you were working in the broadcast industry, you were doing pretty well. Yeah. And then I think one day you just collapsed and woke up.
I kind of collapsed at work. They sent me home in a cab. And then the next day, I think it was a couple of days, I was in a lot of pain. And then I kind of had, I had sort of left side paralysis for a bit. And just, they couldn't find what was wrong with me. And it just went on, and it was chronic pain, and it was this. And a lot of the doctors were just saying, well, you worked in a stressful job, this is what happens. And it kind of gets fobbed off. You just see life in a different way, because everything just suddenly flashes. You just think, I had all of this, I was able to do. You realise after that, everything changes, everything turns on its head, because you take nothing for granted. Because to be able-bodied and then suddenly either in a wheelchair or walking with a stick or whatever, you just think you can't then go back to a normal life. You can't then see things how you saw things before, because everything is different. And you look at how appalling things are for disabled people, which they are appalling. And it's, it was a common thing to have everybody kind of like just do this sort of jokey, but you get a blue badge, the parking's great. And it's, it's not funny. It's pretty, I'm very lucky that I can walk, and sometimes I need to walk with a stick, but I can walk. But you just think, for some people that either are confined, they're completely dependent on other people, or, they can't actually use it. It's incredible how very not far we've come. I think, does that make sense? It's quite incredible how inequipped this country is, or places are, as if they're just trying to kind of make it that it doesn't exist. It does exist, and those people deserve the right to have a normal life, and they can't have a normal life. And it's bad enough, that you think their help has been taken away financially, let alone, shops and places like that, not helping. So I feel quite angry about it.
And so, at that point, what did you think your prospects were? Because you did have a really good career, a really promising career.
Yeah, it was. I was lucky, because I knew I was in my chosen field. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in television. I really wanted to be, I wanted to be a researcher. Didn't really want to go further than that. I did every now and again, but I love the idea of just being, working in chosen programs and that. And I was very scared, because my sister, who's sort of 9 years older, I saw her deteriorate with a muscle wasting illness that's very rare. And, she didn't have, she missed all of it. She had to have her hips replaced and everything. And I just thought, is this what's happening to me? Luckily, it wasn't what's happening to me. It wasn't, I wasn't going through that, just the same pain, but my body wasn't sort of really deteriorating. So I had to just take each day as it came, to be honest. But I think I just got to a point where you can either just go completely downhill and in the hole and just think, I give up. This is it. This is all I've got. I'm going to give up. Forget it. Or you just think, hang on a minute, I'm going to find something to keep me sane. And when I found the embroidery course, and I thought, this really, it was completely keeping me sane, and it was honestly keeping me alive. Because to be able to do something that I thought, I love this, and actually I didn't care whether I was any good or not. I just thought, I really like this, and that's all that matters. And then the turning point for a business was actually when I had when I had my child. That was when it became a business, because then I realised, well, you've got to earn a living. Because now there's a mouth to feed. but that was a turning point. But up until then, it was such a nice feeling to find something to make me feel human again, I think. And especially as it was, my legs were kind of going faster than my arms, so I just was able to do something by putting the foot on the pedal and just moving my, it was more than just a kind of oh, look at that, I've done that, that's pretty. It was emotionally, it was quite a big thing to achieve.
And so when did it go from being a hobby to you getting recognised? Because it's something that you could have potentially just, maybe gone down to the markets done and done small bits. How did you go from this thing that you were doing at a night class to where you are now?
Well, we were trying sort of for years, to try and sort of have a baby, and he was sort of 7 years and 3 goes of IVF. So when he came along, obviously he was our world, and I decided to sort of think, I can make. It was starting off with baby stuff, to be honest, and the company was called Toby Boo because my son's called Toby, so it's all very baby orientated. And then I realised, and it was doing quite successful. It was kind of online, on sort of like these nice little online shops where you get orders and you do sort of personalised things, and I was making enough money and it was great. And then I just thought, this is not what I want to be doing. I'm not, what's the point in just doing these alphabet? It's driving me nuts. And then I thought, do you know what? I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop it, and I'm going to do how I want to do work. And I've just got to take the hit. Financially, I've got to take the hit because I know it's not going to be how it was. And then I started drawing with it. And the first design that I came up with was Oranges and Lemons, which was using the six churches in the song Oranges and Lemons. And I was lucky because I'd sort of, done a tea set and some cushions. And I remember it was like New Year, it was just after Christmas, and I went to the Museum of London, which I hadn't been to for years, and thought their shop was fantastic. And I just kind of thought, it should be here. It's a London-based thing, but it's different. It's not red buses. It's not the obvious that everybody does it. You think, yes, that's not very hard to do. It was something with a little bit of background to it. And the buyer there was just amazing. And she loved my work. And that was a very easy meet. That was a very easy, yes, we want to work with you. And then because I had that positive response, it was great. And then I realised, I can do this.
I mean, how did you organise that meeting? And how did you go about approaching a museum with your artwork?
I think I just rang up and said, can I have the name of the buyer? And I suppose I still had the tail end of being a researcher. And see, when I worked in television, literally you had to telephone, you had to speak to people. You went to a library and you looked in reference books and you had a quill to write with. So you had that ability. Now I feel the ability to just pick up the phone and speak to people has just completely gone. I look back on what I was like, and actually I feel like a complete shell of it to some point, and it is because of the way that technology is. I don't like the fact that everything's email, because we have really, I'm off on a tangent, but we have really lost the ability to pick up the phone and actually do that. But at the time I did pick up the phone and I did say, who is this? And they gave me the name, and then I did email, but then I did go in for a meeting. So it's face to face. But it's quite sad now how everything is just based like that. So,
and it's quite hard for dyslexics as well, isn't it? Because
it's really hard.
Talking's so natural, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like we could get across so many things in a 30-second phone conversation, which could take us an hour to write an email.
Exactly. And you end up in realising that your email is just like, it's like one sentence that if you read back, you suddenly realise you read the wrong, and I've written that the wrong way, haven't I? And whereas actually, if you could just have if somebody picked up the phone and said, I like your work, you think, oh, good, thank you, that's nice, would you like an order? Whereas to actually just get an email saying some waffly response that you can't read properly because you just, you're reading every third word in the wrong order.
I mean, because I like what you do. I do a similar thing, like an email sandwich, because emails are so difficult to write. I usually call them, find out the exact information they need, so I can just put that exact mention in an email.
Yeah.
And then inevitably there'll be a phone call afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's just cutting down what you need to put in an email with a phone conversation either end.
Yeah. But it's quite sad because even if you're a phone person, you sort of you lose the ability to use it because you don't know if the other end is. And, you know, I mean, it is ridiculous that we all have phones and we use it so much, but not to phone people. I mean, it is quite... It's sad. It's really sad.
Well, people think something's wrong, like that your house is burning down. If you make a phone call, they're like, hello, yes, can I help you?
Yeah.
I just want to chat. And they're like,
really?
Why are you calling me then? Just going back to your researching, because that doesn't sound like a very dyslexic-friendly job, going to libraries, researching loads of stuff, lots of writing.
No, well, there wasn't actually, because the first job that I had was on a kids' art program called Smart, which was on Children's BBC, and I was doing, there was two of us, and we were doing basically the makes for Zoe Ball, who presented it. And it was fantastic because it was researching, but it was practical, and it was coming up with ideas, and it was making them. And there was written work, but very little, because I was just making the makes. It was fantastic. And you just have to do different stages of it. And then, you know, other parts of sort of research and stuff, it was it was a dream job. I won't lie. For me, it was a dream job. To combine television art was fantastic. And working in kids was brilliant, yeah.
Do you think that job kind of planted the early seeds of the way that you work? Because a lot of Smart, there was always a big thing at the end where, I know I watched one the other day and they had carpet tiles and they were throwing them around and all the shots are from ground level and you think, what are they doing? What are they making? And then at the end you see the shot from the top and it's created something. Yeah. And that's kind of how your work is now, isn't it?
And it's interesting actually, because when I used to plan for doing the aerial pictures, which we what we call them, you were meant to draw it out on, you were meant to plan it out, draw it out on graph paper and put exactly all the units that you needed. And I look back and I think they were so patient with me because I would do such ridiculous rough estimates and I would, on the day, I would wing it. And in my head, I knew it was going to work. But you've got a camera crew there and you've got, you know, they're hiring cherry pickers and stuff and that. And you think, I was young, so I didn't think of that. I just thought it's going to work. I know it's going to work, and it did work. But I just think, you wouldn't get away with that now. You know, you'd have to plan it out. But I was lucky that they, and I never said, I think they just like the way that I work. They just thought, you know, you just get the word creative bounded about quite a lot. It's creative. She's creative. Look at the mess there. Oh, she's creative. Which, you know, is just the excuse for everything. And yeah, I suppose I didn't realise just how not linear my working was. I didn't realise how non-linear it was. I think I was just going with it.
But I mean, like you said, you were really lucky. I mean, if you were in that same job and they said, no, we need a spreadsheet with, you need 500 carpet tiles. I mean, do you think you would have succeeded?
No, because I was just I could not be organised and I would forget things so quickly. And yeah, I couldn't do it. In my head, you can think, in my head, I know what is going to happen. Between the idea and it happening, it's just literally, it's a blur. And in a way, my work pretty much, that's how it is. In my head, if you gave me a sewing machine and you said, right, can you do, a sketch of whatever's happening outside? And I'd think, oh, okay. And if you asked me to say, well, describe it, I'd say, well, no, I'll just do it. And then I'll just do it. But the in-between bit, I couldn't, is an absolute blur. It's literally beginning and end. There is no middle.
And I think for most people who aren't in that fortunate position, that middle bit is filled with loads of self-doubt.
Yeah. Because... I mean, I still have all of that. It's just that I can't do the middle bit. I can't do the bit that is the organisation or is the planning or is any of that. It's just I've kind of just embraced it and thought, you know what, I can't do it. There's no point in me trying to do it. There's no point in me giving myself a hard time. I just have to go from, A to Z, exactly. Yeah. And
But I guess you've done it so many times, that you know all the feelings, you know all the fears, you know all the doubts, but ultimately you'll get something and it's going to be great and people will love it.
If it isn't, does it matter? If it isn't, I've got to, does it matter? Does it? It's not. I think that's the trouble with some people, is that you're so busy, desperately trying to get something, whatever you're doing, kind of like spot on. And I suppose in a way you just think, do you know what, life isn't like that. And I suppose even being ill teaches you that you just think it's not perfect. You just have to get on. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But there's no point in kind of giving yourself a horrendous time in between. Yeah.
But it's quite daunting when you're not confident that the outcome's going to be good, and everyone's saying, well, why are you doing it this way?
Yeah.
We all do it this way and this works. And
yeah.
I know in my head that it will work. But that confidence to just go, I'm going to do it.
I don't think it's. I think for me, I think a lot of the time it's just stupidity, because I don't think it is confidence, because I don't really. I'm not sure. I don't really think I've got confidence, but I just think I've just kind of got such a sort of flippant, just get on with it. And I've sort of applied that to everything now. But I think I put it down to stupidity.
I mean, I always say that there's kind of 3 stages of dyslexic awakening. So, I mean, for I guess for people like us, Generation X and millennials or whatever, there's the first awakening, which is usually in education. So you find out you're dyslexic and deal with it then. And generally we end up doing okay, because we understand that we can be more autonomous at university and stuff, and we do okay. The second one is in the workplace, where where you're pushed into that structured environment and you can't find your own way to do things. Yeah. And then there's being a parent, which I don't know much about, but being a parent of a non-dyslexic child, trying to teach that child who has a completely different way of thinking from yourself can be quite difficult. And I mean, as a parent, you're in quite a unique position where you have a son who is incredibly bright. He's got an IQ of 154, member of Mensa. Yeah. And I think you said when he was born, you struggled to try and read him Harry Potter. And he just breezed through the whole series at the age of 5.
Well, when he was little, obviously, you'd sort of, you'd read kind of easy books and stuff, always read to him. But it's kind of when at an early age he can spot you making mistakes, that you said things the wrong way round, and pointing those things out that you think, oh God. And so it was. I think I found out we both realised quite early on that he was smarter than the average bear. Possibly because of, you realise he was paying attention. He wasn't just repeating things. He could understand things a lot more from an early age. So, from 3, you could sort of notice things. From 4, numbers he was incredible with, so you kind of, I mean, I couldn't even give you an example of a sum because I'm useless at it. And I think the trouble is now is that it's so, the sort of education system is so kind of like, it's kind of almost just like quite anti anybody being very bright, to a certain extent, that your first instinct when you have got a bright kid is you think, oh, they're obviously autistic, aren't they? They're obviously, you can't just accept, you can't just think, do you know what, maybe you've got a bright kid, maybe that's the, and we got him assessed and he's not on the spectrum at all. He just happens to be technically, he's a genius. And it is quite hard to deal with because he's 9 now. And sometimes I feel incredibly thick and he tries to explain things to me like what's compound interest, and I don't get it, and he gets frustrated. He tries to teach me. He tries to get me to read books. So we have got a role reversal, in all honesty. And I always kind of thought, but he can't free embroider. And then a few months ago, he wanted to give it a go, and no, he took to it really well. So I haven't even got that. Not even got that. So yeah, I'm completely kind of. What's the word? I don't know. I'm sure he'd think of a word. I don't know.
I mean, have you found any tricks or techniques that can allow you to help him? Because it seems like you have difficulty finding, like, maths homework and English.
I can't help him on stuff like that. I can't. I mean, I don't know what I'd do if we had an average or a struggling kid. I really don't know. I mean, how I help him is by him explaining his homework to me. So it means that he's got to thoroughly understand it because he's got to explain it. I mean, he's got spellings wrong because I've been testing him, and then obviously I think it's right, and then so he's learning it the wrong way. I have had to email the teacher and say I'm really sorry. I thought I was so yeah, stuff like that, probably not that great. And I think now, I never used to say I'm dyslexic. I never used to say it. For a start, all those years of thinking I was thick, blah blah blah, and I just thought, does it matter? And actually now, as a parent, I am using it because I have to explain it. I have to say, listen, my brain is working differently, and I am really, this is it. In the same way your work's on that level, mine's working on that level, and it's just off on a tangent. It's not higher or lower, it's just off on a tangent. But yeah, it's weird. And also, you know, you kind of get most people just kind of like doing jokes about the fact, because, you know, in their eyes I'm quite thick, I suppose, and, you know, they look at him and think, where does he get it from? You know, and that sort of wears thin after a while. You know, so yeah, it's a weird one. I do still read to him at night time. And I do either have to have my finger or a ruler under each line, and I know I'm still getting words mixed up, but you know, I like to do it, and he tries to encourage me to do it as well. So it just means that I've just got a watchful eye over me the whole time, correcting me.
I guess being creative and being dyslexic has allowed you to have a career.
Yeah.
But I mean, does it still cause you many problems? You know, apart from, you know, maybe the stuff with your son. I mean, what problems does dyslexia cause?
I work for myself, and I've only got myself. But I find it very hard to sort of to organise things. I think my accountant probably is very patient with me. So I love to do the work, but I do find it very difficult, and I would go so far as to say I don't think that I can. I think the business side is just too hard to manage. It's just I don't think you can't have everything. I don't think you can have everything. And I just think you just have to accept it, and if you can have help, have help. Because
I think you trying to do things all yourself has caused you some problems, and you've missed out on loads of stuff. I mean, I think you've read contracts wrong, you've copyrights your stuff away.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm admitting all this. But yeah, I have. I've given I've done odd things where I've just kind of like you know, signed things because I haven't got that thing to say, can I take this away and read it, or get somebody else to read it? A lot of the time you're trusting other people to read it, but then they still might not be looking for what you're looking for. So it does cause, I'd love to say, oh no, it's fine and it doesn't cause you any problems. Of course it does, it's massive problems. But I think that acceptance of somebody else needs to do that side of it. Otherwise, I have lost a lot of money over things like that, yeah. Definitely.
Because I think you said things like you'd not read a contract.
Contracts I've not read properly, that I must have skipped words, or I know when I look back and somebody else has read it out to me and I thought that's not how I read it. You know, to do with terms and to do with, you know, percentage. Yeah, it's horrible to admit. But that's the reality. And relying on other people to do stuff for you is you'd need somebody to have absolute trust that you kind of think, right, they understand what you need. It's creatively fantastic. You know, creatively you kind of think brilliantly. Our minds work in a fantastically different way that just needs to be embraced. But then embrace the fact that there are things that we cannot do.
Or find difficult to do.
Find difficult, and it doesn't matter how many courses or the rest of it you do, as I've done quite a lot of these things, it just doesn't happen. But I wouldn't swap that for anything. You know, I'd keep the way that my brain works I wouldn't want to swap it.
So if people want to see your work, where can they see it? And, you know, is there any new things coming out that people should know about? If
they're in London, they can see my work at the Leyden Gallery, which is in Spitalfields. And there's a couple of pieces at the Rise Gallery. I'm not quite sure if they might not be there at the moment, because I know there's a special exhibition on the Rise Gallery in Croydon. And then my work in sort of on, sort of teacups and china and things to buy. I've got work at St Paul's Cathedral and the Globe and
Museum of London.
Museum, yeah. See, I can't even remember myself.
Gardens.
Places that you go and visit. But yeah, there's a really nice new collection coming into St Paul's Cathedral soon, which is lovely. A very nice sort of limited collection, which will be in a couple of weeks, I think, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Well, great stuff, Tina. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The Codpast is an audio production from extraordinaire.tv.
And that was this month's dose of Dyslexic Radio Heaven. If you want to see some of Tina's work or check out some videos of her unique way of making art, then take a look at the show page for this episode of The Codpast, which you can find at thecodpast.org. Also, to make sure you never miss another episode of The Codpast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher or SoundCloud. Also, if you love this podcast, then you'll probably love our videos and articles, which can also be found at, you guessed it, thecodpast.org. Finally, if you like the content that we create, the podcast, the videos, the articles, and you feel that they bring some value to your life, then please consider donating to the cause at thecodpast.org. The Codpast is still pretty much a self-funded project, and all donations, no matter how big or small, are really helpful to keeping the Codpast going. So until our next show, which is going to be released on the first Tuesday of the month, keep an eye on our feeds on Facebook, on Twitter, or subscribe to our blog to make sure you're kept in the loop about all things Codpast. But until next time, enlighten your right brain at thecodpast.org.